I love big pedals almost as much as I love alliteration. It's the worm and the wiggler. There were count them, 6 guitars in there, and they all went through one of these pedals. For the intro, I used the wah setting on the worm. And I doubled that up with the worm's phaser setting. Then for the main riff, I used the Hammond setting on the wiggler. When I got to the bridge part, that was the worm's tremolo. I went back to the worm's phaser setting for the bass part. And then I did a little noodling around with the wiggler's Leslie setting. These certainly look like they're at least related. They're both modulation pedals with the same color scheme and the same lettering style, but as we'll see, they have 2 totally different sets of sounds. Let's start with the wiggler. I did a video a few months back about these tube pedals, and my takeaway is that Electro-Harmonix just took everything that you'd expect in a modern pedal and said, yeah, we ain't doing that. It's cumbersome, it's noisy, it gets warm to the touch, the controls are a little mischievous, it needs a funky power adapter, it just might keep your pedal board from closing all the way. And forget SMT, this thing has monster-sized components, which it actually needs because it's running 2 preamp tubes north of 100 volts each. Now, I think the tremolo here is the real star, but there's a lot of fun we can get into with the vibrato modes. Kind of surprised at how fast the rate knob takes off on this thing. This is a truly special pedal, but what if I want something a little more standard looking that at least has a chance of being powered off a normal power brick? How about the big box worm? It also does tremolo and vibrato, but it also does phaser and wah. The worm definitely isn't quite as capricious as its tube-equipped sibling. It at least feels like it's trying to behave, but it still retains that unrefined vintage charm. Looking at the schematic, we can clearly see what makes up the phaser portion of the circuit, and everything's driven by light-dependent resistors. Check out those bad boys. And somehow, through the magic of all this and this dual gang mode switch right here, we get 4 variations on a theme. That's pretty neat. For vibrato and tremolo, the range knob adjusts the overall balance of the effect, and in wah and phaser mode, it's used more to target the frequencies that we're after. The rate of the LFO is a little more usable than on the Wiggler, and even though I normally fancy myself a low and slow sweep kind of guy, I will make an exception for the beautiful flutter of a super fast phaser. And with the auto manual switch, that means we can have a wah pedal without the wah pedal. It does require 24 unregulated DC volts, so plan accordingly for that. I'm a big fan of the Voodoo Lab power supplies, and with this Pedal Power 2, I can actually switch 2 of the outlets over to 12 volts and then use a voltage doubler to bring the total up to 24 volts, and then add in a polarity inverter to make it center positive. Although I saw some comments online that running it at a lower voltage can help cut down on some of that noise and that hiss we heard in there. In my own testing, that didn't really seem to be the case. It just seemed to lower the overall volume. Now, if you like the worm but aren't a fan of all this, there is a newer XO-sized version. I don't have one of those to test here, sadly, but from the demos that I've watched, it seems like it's basically a shrink-raid SMT version of this guy that's not quite as noisy, though I will point out that they kept the full-sized LDR setup on a little breakout board, and it still requires a 24-volt power supply. The big joke about these big box pedals is just how little space the actual circuitry takes up inside. It's like they took a lesson from Frito-Lay in how to fill up a container. But I'll tell you something, even when a pedal isn't the size of a waffle iron, it's a pretty good comparison, right? I still like spacing my pedals apart just to avoid accidental and potentially embarrassing missteps. Nothing like going for a little bit of subtle chorus and then waking the lizard queen. I say reject miniaturization, embrace the big box. When my nephew starts playing guitar, fingers crossed, I think he'll have a lot more fun unwrapping this on his birthday than he would an envelope with a 16-digit serial code inside for a plugin. Or maybe I'm just an old man yelling at a cloud. Either way, I'll catch you on the next one.